Good evening, friends. Liz and Greg here with you. It might sound strange, but should you have to stand and salute your boss when he walks in the room? That was just one of several complaints lodged against a man running one state agency.
As our WAFB I-TEAM uncovered, that top boss shows us the six-figure difference in choosing to step aside versus stepping down. Our chief investigator, Chris Nakamoto, is here with us tonight. Hey, Chris.
Hey, good evening, Greg and Liz. Initially, former ATC Commissioner Ernest Leger sounded open to doing an interview with us on camera, but he called back and said he would be sending us a statement instead, ultimately deciding he would not even do that at the behest of state leaders who told him he was not authorized to talk to us. Here's how we got here.
This is obviously on the upper end of the authority that the agency has.
For the better part of 5 years, Ernest Leger, seen here in 2023, served as the top leader of the State Office of Alcohol Tobacco Control, also known as ATC. That's the agency tasked with issuing alcohol permits to any business that sells alcohol in the state. Most recently, the agency was thrust into the national spotlight when it played a role in the revocation of Reggie's Bar alcohol permit following the death of LSU student Madison Brooks. Here's Leger speaking about that at the time.
This business failed in this regard, and it led to a tragic circumstance.
A few months later, an investigation would be launched into Leger himself. Then, 2 months ago, he stepped down as head of the agency and issued a brief statement saying, "I have decided ultimately to pursue opportunities outside of state government, but will assist a transition as deputy commissioner." And he's still there in the agency's number 2 position. We now know Leger has been under investigation for more than a year, tied to a series of allegations of wrongdoing. The state investigation ended with this 12-page report. The WAFB I-TEAM uncovered the investigation began on December 29, 2023, and looked into 30 different grievances made against him. These are some of the highlights in the report. The report claims a state employee was paid overtime to chauffeur Leger and his wife to dinner and a Beyoncé concert. In a different case, the report says he was involved in a wreck in a state-issued unit and failed to report it. According to the report, Leger went to Mississippi with no approved travel authorization and later refused to answer questions about his travel.
If you use a taxpayer vehicle, that's a taxpayer resource. That's taxpayer money. If the driver is an employee of the taxpayers, that's taxpayer resource. That's taxpayer money. So it doesn't matter if he, whether or not he actually, appropriated money from the state treasury. If you're using any taxpayer-owned resource, whether it's a vehicle or whether it's an employee of the state, that is a taxpayer resource. That's the equivalent of spending taxpayer money.
That's not all. When he was asked about whether he retaliated against an employee by removing him from his position as training director and removing his optional pay because he applied for his job, the report says Leger refused to answer any questions without his attorney present and left the interview. The report also claims an email went out to ATC employees requiring them to stand and salute Leger when he enters a room until he says otherwise. The findings saying that directive should be analyzed to determine if this serves the best interest of ATC, and if it doesn't, it should be suspended. The State Office of Alcohol Tobacco Control operates under the umbrella of the Louisiana Department of Revenue. We requested an interview with Secretary Richard Nelson. Our request was denied. And tonight, Leger is not talking either. The WAFB I-TEAM found when he resigned from the top job on August 11th, he was comfortably moved into the Deputy Assistant Secretary position, only having to take a $2,000 pay cut. When he led the agency as commissioner, the I-TEAM found he was earning $140,000 per year according to state payroll records. He now earns almost $138,000.
This investigation should have been wrapped up in a matter of months. You could have done it in a matter of months, provided him his due process. He could have had a chance to reply. But there's no reason why an investigation should drag on 2 years or even 1 year.
With no one from the agency where Leger works agreeing to talk and Leger refusing to talk about it, Collins believes the takeaway for taxpayers should be one of concern.
We see a pattern of behavior where he seems to not only abuse his power, but abuse taxpayer resources. and seem not to care. And I think it's important to point out that this man is a lawyer. He's an attorney. And so he certainly can't say, well, I didn't know what the ethics rules were. Or I didn't know that this was unethical. I mean, he's a lawyer. He knows the law.
We asked whether or not this internal investigation was turned over to any outside agencies, but LDR again refused to answer any questions. For the WAFB I-TEAM, I'm Chris Nakamoto. Greg, Liz.
All right, Chris, plenty there. Thank you. Appreciate it.